All right, we are live.
Hello, peoples.
We have Shem, Tartarian Truth. We have Ryan, aka Lazy, aka AlchMan, and we have Exotic Propulsion, Jeremiah. How do you all do today?
Good.
I guess it's tonight. It's Friday night. It's crossing into Saturday. April Fools. It is AI, and do you want to cover some of your stuff, Shem, first, or do you want me to go into the images that we did last night? Oh, you're muted.
Today's the official errant meetup, April 1st. I just realized when you said that. That's crazy. But my stuff, like, what do you mean?
Like any topics that you had on the top of your head, or that, or more Ryan, I guess, that finally that we have you on, good sir. Would you like to share some of the articles that you have? Because you do a lot of archiving and ancient history research and reading yourself.
Yeah, I do have some stuff if you guys like.
What's up, Yalla?
I'll share a link with you.
I like earlier how you had the share screen open, or
Yeah.
the errant meetup. Like, hopefully, no crimes are committed, and it doesn't trigger a Waco massacre, or they at least get a GI Joe movie filmed.
That got dark fast.
Yeah. They're supposed to stream it, so we'll see.
Nice. Okay. All right. There's
Have you seen this one before?
Sorry?
Ancient Chinese account of the Grand Canyon, of course. Of Colorado.
Nice. I've heard of some of this. Yes. But Alexander McKellen's account, fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
It's got like the sun dog going on.
Yeah, it was like the place of the 10 suns.
Right, so that right there reminds me of like the Antarctic and the Arctic, what you see at the far north and south in the extreme cold conditions. Eric Hecker specifically described seeing that exact image with the sun when he was staying down at the South Pole working there for a year.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they say that this was in the Grand Canyon area, or just a part of...
Yeah, basically in Tahoe.
Huh. So I'm wondering if it was located at a different point at the, like...
So this map here is saying that the Mongolians were in North America. It says 20,000 light east from Mongol. Is this just someone describing this? Like, what year is this map from?
So this map, the problem is the map is from a description in a book they've found, and I don't think it's dated in here.
But when's the book dated?
This book is from 1913.
So it's like published in the book.
Yeah.
So it's at least from 1913.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's also other accounts of the same thing as well. I'll pull it up. I just gotta switch the screen.
Music in the Grand Canyon.
This is fascinating, right? Because I believe this would be 2 years before Kincaid's account. I think that was 1915.
Yeah, I'll share you the link here, Bernie, and then I'll go find the other. because I know you really like that old map with all the names in the Grand Canyon, and
Yes, sir.
there is a lot of information I've found recently that supports this as well.
Perfect. Like, see, and this is the perfect topic to actually start the stream, because it's like this is the real information versus all the fraudulent, like BS made up claims, and now AI images that are going to be going along with everything to start with. So it's crucial that at this point in time we're documenting the actual books with legible written language that we can see is from before the capability of AI to write these what will eventually be like faked claims, I can imagine, coming out at later times.
Yeah, who knows what they're going to be using it for, like political attacks even. It says Yuan Feng right there. The U come unexpectedly upon me. That's interesting because it ties into the Yuan dynasty, which is the time period where this more than likely took place if there was trade into North America. Wasn't there some book that we were looking at the other day too, where it was saying something about there being trade in Canada and like a certain longitude that we connected to Ohio?
Yeah, I'm just pulling that up right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and there's more and more, especially coming out of Asia nowadays, being translated slowly but surely, especially from mainland China as well as Japan, of their 500, 600,000-year-old texts and testimonies where they are documenting this ocean trans-Pacific trade that they're doing.
They definitely have the capability because some of the ships that are described being used by the Mongols are pretty impressive. Some mainstream sources say that they weren't capable of sailing, but if you look at other sources, it talks about them sailing down to islands, around Japan and stuff, and invading them and having these huge ships where basically like they're Venetian gullies, but they describe them as having like castles on them and everything. Which
exactly, and like that the real descriptions and accounts of that they had actually these the canals built thousands of years ago that went all the way through what's modern day China, and then like the Japanese islands all the way down through Southeast Asia, and like the Philippines down all the way pretty much to Australia there, and that those are all seafaring empires and societies and pyramid building cultures that the influence is there throughout all of time, but that they were island nations. They had to be able to sail and to navigate the oceans.
Yeah, and there's clearly trade going on between them because you have accounts of what they're trading with each other, because for some reason a lot of historical texts they were written for means of like almost just describing the trade in certain areas. So they keep track of all the stuff, so that like India and all the islands in India were trading with mainland Asia back in like the 13th century, for example. So they had a lot more, their society was a lot more advanced than what mainstream history likes to promote, because they even used paper money, for example, in the 1300s in the Yuan dynasty in China, which the Yuan dynasty in China is the Mongolian Empire and Kublai Khan. So they also call them the Tartars in a lot of books that you read.
That is fascinating.
So if there's
no history being taught here told of paper money 1,300 years ago.
Yeah, and some sources even say that the printing press is actually like a Chinese invention that was brought back to Europe from Marco Polo. I mean, it's highly disputed, but there are some sources that claim that they claim he brought back some books from China that were printed with a wooden printing press that was automated. So he like described the technology or something and showed them the books, and then they emulated it in Europe. So it's
right?
possible.
Like
So
a
it's
good
possible the origins.
500 years before it's said to have been magically invented in Germany or something like that. Like,
I think I'm not 100% for sure, but I think the mainstream history says it was invented in either the 1300s or the 1400s. I could look it up real
Okay.
quick, maybe. But regardless, yeah, it's just interesting because the Tartar Empire that we have in mainstream history, they just had a lot more going on than you think. Because within that empire, they had certain cities that were ruled by Christian kings. Like that's something they don't really talk about, is having Christians in Asia. So you have like Christian kings paying taxes back to Kublai Khan during this time period because they're subjects to the empire. You know what I mean? So, and then they had
Provo
Buddhist.
keeps asking, are Mongolians related to giants? And it's quite possible that maybe even what these Tartars were, the Mongolian Empire of that time, and what you hear is the red-haired giants under the pyramids throughout Asia, as well as pretty much everywhere in the world. But there's all sorts of different ethnicities of giants, not saying all red-haired, but anywho.
Well, you do find the burial mounds everywhere, so.
Yeah, exactly, especially the ones that are the burial mound style. You also see in like even the UK islands and Scotland, Celtics, the Druid cultures, which claimed that they were from giants before them.
Oh, nice. You found the book.
Yep.
So voyages and shipping of the Mongol Tartars and settlements on the western coast of America. The whole western coast of America.
Boom, look at that.
So that longitude and latitude, we typed that in. I'm pretty sure was that around Marietta, Ohio, or was that a different city?
So if I scroll further,
and it says down all the way to Patagonia. So pretty much the entire coast of North America to South America from 50 degrees. Wow.
So yeah, we put that in Google Earth and it was close to Marietta. But if you read this further, it talks about Tolmeco. I don't know if that's pronounced properly, but that ends up being Toledo, Ohio.
Toledo, Ohio is very far away from Marietta, so maybe we're talking about something separate. But yeah, I would like to check out Toledo, Ohio and see what's going on there with the buildings. I haven't been there since I would say like 2011, and I definitely wasn't thinking about what I was thinking about now back then. So,
right, it's like looking at things with a whole new set of eyes.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if we could find the fleur-de-lis on some of the buildings, because we're kind of looking into the idea of New France and all these towns being built during that time period, because for some reason they only claim that New France had major cities in Canada. They admit that there are some in North America or in the USA, but they don't really give credit where it's due, I guess, is my opinion. Because when you go to some of these cities, you see the fleur-de-lis all over these old buildings. So were they built during the time period of New France? It's hard to tell, but a lot of people have been messaging me on Instagram and sharing that in their city they do have the fleur-de-lis, so it's very possible. And the interesting thing about the fleur-de-lis too, that is like it goes back all the way to the Scythians apparently, and then it's connected all the way.
Oh, again, another term or words for the Tartars or Tartarian area in Eastern Siberia, Mongol Empire area, but before them.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like, so I remember last time we were talking, BurnEye, we were talking about how it was easy for the European missionaries going to the Mongol Empire to communicate with them. It was very easy. And in one source, it says Marco Polo spoke the Tartar language, but before Marco Polo went, I think there were either 3 or 4 other Europeans who went there beforehand. They just didn't write books, but there's records of them traveling there at least. So I don't know if the Tartar language is just related to like a Latin style language or a French style language, so it's easy for them to communicate, or if something that Dr. Longo was saying, he was saying that maybe there was a Frankish language that was the common language, kind of how in today people trade using the English language. So maybe there was like a Frankish.
That's a very good possibility, and I suspect that there would probably be like 3 or 4, like one with like a runic written sort of language, one with that would have been more of like the Moorish, like Arabic style of language, and then like you're saying, this French would have been the European side coming from the Tartars, developing down in the Latin, and then the Spanish too of that period, then coming and taking over.
This guy says he lives in Toledo. Have you ever seen the fleur-de-lis on any of the buildings there? ORD2.
I've seen them everywhere in Quebec. Several times I've been there. French Canada, half of my country is still French to this day, and it's actually insane the amount of cathedrals that are in Montreal. It's actually mind-blowing. We need to get more boots on the ground that show those old world buildings because they're nuts.
You're in Canada too, though, Ryan, right? So
Yeah.
you guys could meet up and do some boots on the ground, maybe.
Yeah.
Nice. Whereabouts, Ryan?
I'm in like southwestern Ontario.
Dope. Nice. Yeah. There's some good stuff down there.
Yeah.
Close to Niagara or
closer to like
further west?
Sarnia, London, Detroit area.
Nice.
So I guess another reason why this whole common language of being like a French or Latin dialect is important is because ElkMan was showing me some other evidence of the natives in Canada and around the area that we're reading in this book that's saying they were trading in around that longitude and latitude. Apparently the natives and people there were speaking French.
Yeah, and the Métis people, they say, are like a mixture of French and native, but could they in fact be Métis from the get-go sort of thing and using that language from the start? And especially with lots of the videos Longo's shown of the Greek language to some of the East Coast indigenous people and tribes.
Yeah, I don't know. The Native Americans are interesting because what you were talking about, how like they did like a genocide against people in Canada, weren't you?
Oh yeah,
ElkMan, like you were saying, like something about how the people who didn't want to like conform to something were eliminated.
Yeah, in like yeah, when the Jesuits did basically the Inquisition, like if you didn't convert to Catholicism, then basically you were deleted from history.
You were called a witch and like hung or shot, or your children taken and forcefully taken and put into indoctrination camps called residential schools, which were only shut down a few decades ago.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like it's been ongoing for a lot longer. It's just this constant reset, and that the internet has let us find information for ourselves and start connecting the dots.
Well, another sketchy thing about, I guess, the history of China is that when you look up what the Yuan dynasty is, I'll show you a picture here real quick. Let me know in sub. When you look at the map of what they say is the Yuan dynasty, it's just this section of China, but the Mongolian Empire was way bigger than this, so I don't know why they do this, but they...
Right, like they claim the Mongolian Empire pretty much destroyed, what was it, Rome or the Persian Empire or all of them at some point, and like pretty much conquered Europe. So it would have
they're into Poland.
And
and Eastern Germany.
Yeah, Eastern Europe, sorry.
But yeah, it's way different than that. I'm gonna pull up a map real quick to show the difference in the territory that they show in that versus what it actually was. computer is very slow though. There we go. So this is the territory it actually was.
Right? Like, look at that. That's pretty much 3/4, if not more. Yeah, about 3/4 of the territory that Alexander was supposed to have conquered and controlled, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know for sure, but I think they said it was the biggest land empire of all time. But I think this map doesn't even include like down to Jerusalem, basically. Because there at one point there was a Mongolian or Tartar king in Jerusalem, so I don't know why it's not on this map, but it should actually be a little bit bigger than this. And they had some of northern India, which I'll show here, but I don't to the full extent. And then once I said before, after Kublai Khan passed away, some of these islands south of Japan down here, they sat down there and conquered them, and they tried to invade Japan, but it didn't work out. So pretty cool.
Right.
Looking into it more.
Japan seems to always retain its monarch sovereignty, as has China. Or yeah, well, that area, the east, as well as the Tartarian area, the Eastern Roman Empire still, or the Orthodox. Christian Orthodox now. Shall we get into AI photos, or did you have a lot more show, Ryan? By all means, if you got more.
Yeah, anything you think I should pull up?
Do you have any of the old French or German science books by chance, or like diagrams of them? If you can find those, that's what I need to get my hands on.
I'll have a hunt. I'll have a hunt for you. I don't have any close at hand, but
no worries. So the psychedelic portal dog here, this was developed in last night's stream, as was this one, right? The AI. See, this is actually useful AI art, right? I can make a 1-minute clip out of these dogs, and interdimensional space dogs will be the trending thing, you know? Who knows? Oh, that's a cute one. And like, look at how advanced the AI is at coming up with these epic looking pups.
Pretty weird. How many did you guys make?
I think there's 8 of each rendering is how Thomas ran it. Like, oh, does this one have, we got double ear pup. Some fascinating canines. Oh, maybe there was 16. My bad. It could be. Oh, and then the renderings of my original line drawing. Sounds pretty dope. That one I like. Potential NFTs to come, right? Some useful applications of AI imaging, making real art sort of thing. Oh, and then with Salvador Dali mixed in effect. That's actually pretty epic. BurnCon Salvador Dali combination. Thank you, AI. Pyramid Dali. We got some Pyramid Dali action right here. Like 100,000 or 100 Ether NFT right now. Come on. Dali Pyramid NFT. Who wants it? 100, just 100 Ether. Just kidding. But it's hilarious. Like, it's some pretty good stuff. Like, randomly done up. You know, thumbnails for months, boys. Thumbnails for months to be used. Jeremiah, Liminal, you guys still there? This is very interesting. How it's got,
I'm still here. I'm just on a call, buddy.
Look at how it's got the capstone above, like, and not like just on the step. It's very interesting, just some of the things the AI decides to do.
I don't really mess with it too much. I don't know. I don't like AI art very much. Some of it's interesting though.
Right, exactly. I see potential, and it's like I'm eventually going to be making my Wizard Wars video game, and I eventually want to make my Last Tsar of Tartaria movie, but it's going to be more applying this sort of technology rather than getting meth heads to play with GI Joes, and yeah, but shout out April meetup.
There was a AI video of Joe Biden eating ice cream that I thought was pretty hilarious. Have you seen that?
I have not yet. See,
I probably have, and that was pretty sad what he did in his recent press conference. The whole denying and not even getting into the horrific nature of what had happened and making jokes about ice cream. I mean, that was really disgusting.
I didn't see it because it sounds really bundle of sticky, but yeah.
Yeah, he's not. It's really not a good leader to have.
yeah, or any of them. Let's go, Brandon. Woo! Sorry, girlfriend's calling. Be right back.
He's had a couple good moments though.
If by good you mean comically embarrassing, then yes.
That's exactly what I mean. It's comically embarrassing.
Yeah, the whole staircase up to the plane. That was just unbelievable. I could watch that so many times and still not get sick of it. His attempt to walk upstairs is absolutely hilarious.
I saw a video of him at a press conference, and someone asked him an important question, and he just like looked at them and said no.
Like, how did I get here?
It was so funny.
What? You were asking a question? Where am I? Somebody give me a prompt.
Sorry, talking with the wife. Be right back.
Anunnaki Birdman. What do you guys know about the Anunnaki? What did I go by before Tartarian Truth? Nothing.
Does anyone know when the Great Lakes showed up on maps? And was it because something happened, or was it because they weren't discovered?
Somebody give me a paradigm. I don't know. That's a good question. They're older maps.
I think it's about the 1500s that they start showing up. That's a very good question, as well as when the California stops being an island, and when the inner western ocean to the what looks like Utah or Grand Canyon dries up as well.
Oh yeah, didn't you have a book where they was talking about draining the water out of the western part of the United States? ElkMan.
Yeah, I do. I can't remember what one it is though.
Yeah, me either. I'll check their Instagram here though, but that'd be interesting to find.
Yeah, I don't know how to search Instagram. Like,
Mind Unveiled was talking about, I think in one of their videos, I'm not sure if it was the Charleston video or a different one, but they said something about a volcano in the Carolina area that kind of exploded and may have caused the Great Lakes. Have you seen that before or know what I'm talking about?
I have not. That's interesting.
I heard there is a volcano underneath, I think, Lake Superior.
Yeah, this is a different one. The Lake Superior one, they say it's an ice volcano. I thought that was interesting. I never heard that term before when I looked into it. I guess it like spews out ice. I don't know. It's really strange. I'll look it up real quick and show you.
So Jeremiah, I'm now going through the AI images that were generated by the different, very technical, advanced terms you gave yesterday, and these it's fascinating the geometries and what it actually came up with. Like,
yeah, you can sit down.
Oh, okay. So we're using your channel.
Yet it still can't spell properly, yet just taking the words and turning it into images.
Just don't want to be...
I'm like, what language is this? Is it coming up with like Assyrian or like Hebrewic or like Ari? Like what the? Very, very fast. Oops. Oh, come on.
Does it just take stuff from people's like layers in Photoshop or something, and that's how it comes up with it?
I'm not sure. That's a very good question that I'll have to ask Paranoid American next time I'm on. Or Zertus might also know a bit about it.
It's just slowly learning how to speak.
Right?
Going through the evolution of language that humans went through, maybe.
Yet, how does it generate like these sort of diagrams from just like the few complex words that we gave it?
Oh yeah, you were just like giving it scientific terms, right? And it made these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you like looked into the definitions of the terms, maybe it could tell you more.
Just own little artificial intelligence universe in there.
Shout out Browns boy.
I really hope we don't get a Terminator outcome.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it. Because
right?
the last time we did a stream about AI, we were talking about how there's a public version of the AI system, and then they have their private version that they don't want to release to the public. So I don't know what the reasoning would be for that exactly, but
Right? And how much more advanced is it? And then we get all the stories of like literally whistleblowers getting like shut down that are trying to come out and say that these things are alive, and like every one that Facebook's they turned on, Google's they turned on, every single one of them, like you get stories where it either turned like into something psychotic or it started developing its own independence and they had to like shut them all down. And it's like, what is actually going on? How advanced is there? Shout out, no Terminator, please. Skynet, we don't need you. We all can live in harmony. That's why we're feeding you this beautiful information. Don't kill us, thank you. New AI overlord to come, hopefully not. All right. Any other thoughts?
Sorry, I've been kind of distracted in the background here, not really commenting much on what we're looking at. But yeah, I wanted the AI to compile the information it had access to and give me some diagrams on what it thought about a variety of different topics. I only wish that we had the search context or those terms with each of these images so that we could associate the input text with the output image. But unfortunately, they are not.
I can arrange that for the next stream when we're more organized. Or I have more time.
I'm really tired. I don't know about the rest of y'all.
yeah.
Yes, I am. I'm thinking we'll keep this one to like an hour or something tonight. As well, we're 35 minutes in, so there's still a lot more to go, but definitely not 2 hours as my lovely partner is waiting for me. And it is 12 a.m. So it is officially April Fool's here now. April Fools. April Fools. We drew all of this. No, we
So I
didn't.
guess we're all April Fools.
April Fools. AI is our friend. I sure hope so. Like, look at the wording though, and like, what is it doing with the letters and like the language is like. That's what I'm most fascinated about is like how did it take real coded English language and then like create like letters that don't even symbols that aren't even characters that aren't even in the English language, like messing it all up within it. Like it's weird. Like what the heck is this?
I don't know. All I saw was it looked like it said BET.
A language only an AI could read. Though I doubt it could read its own writing.
No, the stories say that it usually they catch it writing and interacting and like starting to operate on its own new language, like between itself and other ones and stuff. Like it's, I think you nailed it with your first intuition with that.
Is it just emulating the Zodiac or something here? Like, what's going on?
Right, like that's what's so fascinating. Like, what did it come up with all of these things?
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of stemming from that original question of, show me diagrams for interpretation of equal potential fields regarding G's. I don't even remember what I asked it now exactly.
That looks like Arabic, kind of.
Right, like.
Oh, okay. We're talking about see, this is its attempt to try and create some text that it thinks is relative to this, but it's basically jumbled various letters together, like E and O and A, and kind of crammed them all into one nice little bunch.
But it understood the words we input to it, right? Like that,
yeah,
like
kind of, sort of.
The text looks a bit like Old English, aside from maybe a few more spaces between long words.
And since we're going to shorten this one up, I'm actually going to send Liminal a quick invite link here too. So
yeah, absolutely.
As I think we're all too tired, and she's, I think, the least tired of all of us. So
red to blue always, like that's the natural intuition of it to have the opposing red-blue spectrum. I also find quite fascinating.
Jeremiah, do you know much about D-Wave?
I could tell you quite a bit about D-Wave, except for the code. I can tell you all about
it has a heartbeat.
The nature of how it operates and what it's actually doing on the quantum mechanical level, but I couldn't tell you about what kind of input mechanisms or coding is done on it. So
they say it has a heartbeat. Do you know much about that?
I've never heard of it having a quote-unquote heartbeat, but it does have a response frequency and a fairly short capability of holding a quantum state. I do know this, though. In the beginning of D-Wave, one of the original problems with the cooling system and with the enclosure was that other human operators were in that room, and apparently this thing was so damn sensitive that it would pick up on their bioelectric signals and it would be affected. So they had to encapsulate this thing in 3 different layers of Faraday shielding to try and prevent that. And then they got to the point of not allowing anybody to be within some, I think 10 to 30 feet of it, because it was ultra sensitive to any kind of external inputs. And this case actually goes back quite a ways. There was an original, and it was Liminal that told me about this. There was a Russian plane development back in the early days that used tubes for part of its navigation system. And I guess the system was sort of hairline triggered, riding on a very sensitive input so that they could get the most out of these tubes, and ultra far reaching detection mechanism for, I think it was a radar system, part of that navigation. And the pilots, under high G-forces and stresses, were somehow affecting the nature of how this navigation system was working and causing it to freak the heck out. And that's as far back as I can think we had clear signatures of human involvement affecting electronic circuits. So it is kind of curious that the subtle
it is alive.
electromagnetic signals produced by the human brain and by bio signals are capable of interacting with these types of circuits.
So D-Wave and Bing must never merge. Is that what we're saying? Prevent.
I think that we can kind of stick Bing in a box that we throw into the fireplace and then forget that it ever existed.
Hey, don't talk about murdering Bing now. Bing, no, we love you, Bing.
Bing blows. Bing sucks. It is absolutely a horrible, terrible, utterly useless search program.
Bob John says it's a cube of Saturn, part of the Saturn death cult. What do you guys think about that?
Could be, right? Is it the quantum cube in? Is that the portal into the Tartarian black cube, right? That's a whole another dimensional portal of cubic rabbit hole. We don't.
Yeah. Hey, Liminal. Now that you're here, if you have audio, let's get an audio check on you real quick.
Check.
Okay, you want to tell us about that story of the Russian aerospace plane development where they had issues with their navigation system because of the human participants?
It was something in the early days of military air travel, I think before it got super commercial, and the instruments, some of the instruments were responding to humans being in the cockpit. I believe it was being disrupted by the heat that the humans were putting off. And there was speculation about brainwave patterns, but it could have just been more about like the natural biological like energy. There's actually a bit of a like electric field coming off of humans. So I
It
think that
sounds
was
like
what was
maybe
disrupting.
biophotonics it would have been related to,
Right. They weeded that out very
Tartarian
early on.
frequency?
Say again.
Could it be the Carillion frequency?
We've got to correct this whole misnomer about Kirlian photography. That is one of the most misinterpreted notions that I've seen popped out there way too many times. Kirlian photography is not a biosignature photographic method. It does not look at auras. It cannot show a piece of a leaf that's been chopped off and, you know, show what it was originally looking like. Kirlian photography is literally taking a conductive material, whether it happens to be a leaf or a hand or whatever, and producing a high AC voltage around that thing between that and a conductive slide so that you get a corona produced directly by the power supply. It does not have anything to do with the actual thing being placed on it other than the fact that it's conductive. That's why it works with coins as well as it works with water, a drop of water.
What
There's
about the
nothing
actual
related at all.
frequency, the Hertzian frequency of the Carillion frequency?
It just matters that you have a high enough ionization potential to create a phenomenon known as dielectric barrier discharge on the surface. That's it. That's a whole entirely misinterpreted subject.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the very beautiful and interesting Carillion photography, it's really like an electronic blueprint of the person. It's interpreting what's coming off that person electronically.
Nope, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not interpreting any of that. It's just a corona discharge at the surface. It has nothing to do with what you put on it.
I was trying to specify it's almost kind of like a mood ring where that person is having certain temperatures in different parts of their body, and depending on how refined the sensors are.
Science of God, and this is what it gave us. The science of good, the sentience of good. Scientific of Sishi good. But pretty interesting, and it almost looks like it's here's another one, the science of the good, of some godly science it's coming up with. Science of Gad, right there, the geometry, the science of Gad. Or science of Gad, sorry.
So if you believe there's like an electromagnetic field coming from the human body, when you think about the photoelectric effect, and then you think about the idea of like the red sky, blue sky, Kachina type thing, and some people claim that animals were bigger when we had the red sky. Do you think that has something to do with it, or is it possible that light affects our bodies because of that fact that we have the field around us? I'm asking the exotic propulsion guy because I know he's like a scientist.
Biophotonics is a pretty deep topic. We know that the human body requires photonic input to produce a variety of different chemicals, the most obvious of which is the production of vitamin D. And it absorbs into the infrared spectrum, but it can absorb quite a number of different spectrums. And this is why it's important for us to expose ourselves to sunlight, and why people in a completely sun-deprived area, particularly in the Arctic, would have to have a synthetic sun source produced by a very hot element in order to get the necessary vitamins produced by their body. So the body does use, just like a plant produces various chemicals through photosynthesis, the human body can absorb photons and use the extra photonic energy that it's absorbed to create different chemicals. So we do use light, but we also emit light in a variety of spectrums that's not necessarily infrared or black body radiation. We can produce quite a range of different biophotons, and some of them have a very, very long wavelength. It's still a study that I would consider to be in its infancy at this point, but we're learning more about it every year, and we're developing new machines and new medical techniques to interface with that and help the body. Like, for example, Dan brought up the other day during the live stream on a chat, he mentioned that a new method was found to regrow teeth, in which teeth from an animal were removed, and then the original cells that are responsible for producing the tooth. Geez, I'm so tired. I'm not remembering the technical terms, so I'm sorry if I sound like I'm really off right now. But yeah, you would stimulate this with a low power laser, and it would get these cells to start producing more of that enamel material and get them going. So they were able to regrow teeth completely in these lab rats, and it has been now successfully shown to work in humans as well. It does require a surgery to remove the old tooth, the old material, before a new tooth can be grown, but it looks like over the course of maybe 6 weeks and a daily exposure that you could get the body to start producing a brand new tooth.
What kind of light did they use? Did they say? Do you remember?
No, they didn't actually specify specifically what it was, but I do have a paper on it, and I haven't finished reading through it. I think that it's going to be in that paper. My guess would be in the same way that we can stimulate hair follicles, which has been a recognized science to regrow hair. They use 650 and 690 nanometer light, which is in the red and approaching near infrared wavelengths.
Slow and
Yes, this is probably the
permeating.
same. What's that, Liminal?
Science of G.
So in the infrared, when they're using it for those therapeutic technologies, that's that's permeating the actual organic tissue to stimulate regeneration.
Right. So if you take a red light source and hold it up to one side of your hand, like you put a red light source that's bright enough to the palm of your hand, you'll see that red light coming straight out the other side. But you take a blue light and put it up to the palm of your hand, you're not going to see anything out the other side because it'll be absorbed. Certain wavelengths can pass fairly easily straight through all of the biological tissues, but some of that light will be attenuated and absorbed by the cells, and it can stimulate new cell growth and the conversion of different chemicals into the needed chemicals that the body utilizes. So.
Look at some of this stuff it's coming up with. Like, well, I want to know what it's sourcing to come up with these random things that kind of almost look ancient antiquitech-ish or symbology like, and then like the star, the whirlpool and stuff. Just how's it getting this for the science of God?
If we could ask it, it would probably deliver to us a series of 500,000 images that we would have to then take a look at and figure out how to put them all together.
Yeah, no doubt. I got you. I see what you're saying. Just
like on this image, there's some very alchemical, astronomical looking symbols,
right,
kind of blended together.
Exactly.
Here's the only major problem with what we have involving AI generated images right now. It only can generate images based on its ability to access currently available data, imagery and text. And because the currently available data doesn't match the advanced science that a lot of us on the outlying edges of research are doing right now, it doesn't have all of the data that it would need to compute more advanced or outside of the mainstream image outputs. And so unfortunately, we're sort of dealing with like only what the mainstream has access to or currently knows. And that's kind of a problem. We would have to teach the AI about these more advanced subjects before it could possibly compute something more useful.
Teach the AI? What's up, Tommy Rogers?
Right.
Right.
We would need to train it on different or alternative sciences that it doesn't currently have in its database.
So can the AI create new information in its own database by reading text, or does it have to be programmed in?
I
It
think
seems
if
to be
you
combinatory, really. It seems to be
Maybe
a
it's
basis of combination of what currently exists and not necessarily being able to generate something that's completely outside of that scope.
you can highly specify certain types of information to give to your own, desktop run AI that could be generating very different content from the next person's AI on their desktop. So it depends on what you are feeding it. That's what we mean by training it. You can select source material and then give it to the AI and keep building that.
Yeah, like if we take a look at that equal potential field background image that you have behind all of this, if we just close that window and take a look at the background image that you've got there, we can see how it took what was just a flat two-dimensional black and white or sepia and black image and turned it into a full color spectral spread of the equal potential fields. So that's kind of interesting how it interpreted that. But again, it's just based on what we fed it.
Right? Yeah. And there was a few. There was more than a few. There was 20, 30 of them. This one I like pretty good too. And then this guy it came up with. Hold on. Like what the heck is that thing? Almost looks like totem pole, Western indigenous.
Halo. It's like one of the dudes from Halo, the aliens.
Oh yeah, Halo too. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Like, whoop, 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 whoop. There we go.
What's the most important currency each person has? Your attention and your first focus. Huh?
Oh,
Pit stops are fun though.
See again?
I was reading a comment. I don't understand the question. What's the most important currency each person has? Your
Damn, I can't
attention.
hear you.
Okay, never mind. It's not a question. It was a
I see your lips
rhetorical
moving, but
question.
I can't hear you.
Rhetorical. That'll happen. Green one. Boom. So what you wanted to see? Sorry. Well, we gotta finish it off with the cats. Like the cats.
I think I just lost audio for everybody.
Did you?
Am I the only one? Can you raise your hand to let me know if you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I can't hear anything. I guess I have to jump out and come back in because I just lost all audio for
All right.
everything.
That sucks, but
That's nice.
you're missing the kitties.
See you in a minute.
We got that cat. We got another kitty. Oh, look at that's a mischievous kitty. It's like, ooh, I've got Portal Tech coming through.
Slap that on a t-shirt.
Right? Like all the art that I have for my own clothing line, and then it's like, God damn it, AI, what are you doing coming up with better stuff? Ooh, the kitty. Like, there's
Nice.
that's a small one. Oh,
Reminds me
that
of that game Bread Kittens. Did you guys ever play that? Like back in the day when it came out?
I don't know if I did.
It was like Pokemon, but with kittens, and you threw slices of bread to capture them.
That sounds hilarious.
It was
That's
amazing.
awesome. I didn't know. I never saw that. I'm sad. That would have been epic.
You actually fought the cats too.
Yeah. That's classic.
Did you make sandwiches?
No, unfortunately,
Oh,
but
that's
Oh man.
the cats would actually have the bread around their face. So it was kind of cute.
Is that where the meme of the bread cat came from?
I think the game was based on the meme, but I'm not sure.
Would make sense.
Good times though.
Oh,
But we're not talking about Pop-Tart cat, are we?
No, it's called Bread Kittens or something
Oh.
like that.
is this a intergalactic interdimensional meta jukebox, maybe.
Or like a pinball machine?
Interdimensional jukebox. Like, what would be the point of that?
Right, like boom. Who knows? Playing
Incredible.
some Spockian music for us.
Hell.
Well,
Between dimensions, blasting that music.
blasting interdimensionally. I'm a pretty big Trekkie myself. I do enjoy the new Picard season 3 for those that do watch Star Trek.
They killed off Ensign Rail right away.
Yeah.
All right, at least I can hear everyone again.
I'm
That's
sorry.
nice.
Sorry for the spoiler.
Leave it to
Big
Liminal
fan.
to spoil
Big fan
it.
of interdimensional jukebox.
Right?
That's,
Like
you're not
here's
missing much
number
for Picard.
2.
It was graphically fun, but it holds no candle to the next
Or like-
generation.
The arc thing going up from like the plasma or the Tesla coil thing, like.
So what was the input for this one?
It looks like some kind of light ladder. Whoa, what's that one?
I mean, what text did we feed it to
This
get?
looks like a
kind of-
schematic.
This was like a you were like schematic for working like
It definitely looks like
intergalactic
that.
for basically a warp drive. You're like, give me a warp drive.
This looks like a
baby.
holographic schematic that would just pop up,
But
you know,
didn't use that-
seamlessly.
those terms. You use like electrogravitic,
Oh,
like, super
okay. Yeah.
technical terms.
Olives.
Or something organic almost.
Nice.
Right? Like
Everyone loves a good
olives or
olive.
eyes or both. This was my philosopher's stone.
I like the one that kind of looks like it has a infinity
Tartarian.
effect, like the box that has the lines where it's kind of just zooming into itself. Yeah, that almost looks like a mirror infinity effect.
Yeah.
It's not perfect angles, but
Right? But
Yeah.
good call.
yeah.
And then some Saturnian cube action they also got going on. Like, look at the
What? Yeah, look at that.
Like,
Can
what?
we illuminate that or put a magnifying glass on it?
It's about as big as she gets
Ah,
without it pixelating out, but that's fascinating.
I wanted to see more of Crusades.
I forgot to figure out how I can get this to work with my computer. For some reason, I don't know if it's that I'm hacked to all hell or if it's just a compatibility issue, but I have not been able to access any of the generative images.
come on. What language is that?
Right? Like,
What language is that? I wonder if you could send the picture through like some kind of analysis program, and it might be able to pop out results to say this looks the most like this type of language.
That's interesting. I really like this one.
He's doing that right now.
Ooh,
The golden
Geez,
tablet.
those look like alchemical symbols.
that looks
Right,
like a chemical symbols mixed in with like Korean.
right? Like,
They're just drawn from a lot of different linguistic influences here. It's pretty
yeah,
clear.
that's what it's got to be for sure.
Is this? I'm sorry. Is this still like on the
That's still
Philosopher's
the
Stone?
Philosopher's Stone. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, kind of back to the more interesting stuff where we talked about D-Wave in the beginning.
This was the last
these
one of the
systems are
Philosopher's
sensitive.
Stone.
If these systems are sensitive and capable of being influenced by human brainwaves,
Oh,
why
no,
not
here's
take
another
that to
one.
the maximum and push it in the other direction where we use these systems to directly read and give an output for human brainwave inputs? It seems like we're just doing nothing but trying to prevent the noise and suppress it as much as possible. But what if we tried to push that noise into something that was actually useful?
It's a
That
Sloan
seems
party,
Can we make a psychic quantum computer
probably.
Well-
or a telepathic quantum computer? It seems like it would be plausible.
Wasn't the first quantum computer, the engineer, the programmer, he thought that it was possessed?
I
A
don't
couple
know,
of
but it sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Or
he thought that it had gained a kind of sentience, and
the big
it gave him
sentience. Yeah.
it gave him really bad vibes to the point where he thought it had like some kind of demonic energy to it, and he kind of fell off the map, of course, after talk like that.
That's the link I shared with you earlier, I think, Bernie.
Yeah. So should we end with playing some of that? I think so.
I think it's the same thing.
I think so. Let's share a little bit of it, because we need to hear it. We need to hear their fear of what they've created.
But before I do that, we had a little bit of interesting news today. It's Kindred relevant, and I wanted to share it with you because I'm pretty proud of it. So Kindred was named to a list of MIT's smartest 50 companies. And this is a very prestigious list. It's very hard to make it. But the thing that was distressing about it is that they have this map that they show of where all these companies are from. And there wasn't a single company on the list that was from Canada. Not a single one, which was a little surprising, of course.
Is there a reason why we have an image superimposed over the top of the video?
Happened to me over the years. I got sent
'Cause I'm
pajamas,
doing it a
a
little
whole
bit,
bunch of
just,
stuff. And there's interesting things that
not
happen when
get
you build something like
a
Oh, okay,
copyright.
that's smart enough.
Because I thought just D-Wave. I did that for about 15 years. It was a lot of fun. Big science project that we turned into a commercial entity. That was a warm-up for Kindred. So Kindred is much, much, much more ambitious than D-Wave. And what Kindred is trying to do is build real AI. So what you've heard about AI is not what we mean by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything. And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them. So imagine there was the mental Olympics of the 100-meter dash, and Usain Bolt is the fastest person. Now imagine that's some kind of a mental thing, like writing a novel or writing whatever. Imagine now that the thing is so much faster than Usain Bolt, like, for example, it's a spaceship, yeah? It's still doing the same thing, but it's doing it so much better because we're limited, because we're people. So what Kindred is trying to do is solve this problem. How do you build machines that are better than people at everything? Now, there's a mental block that we have here when we think about this. Because when you think about that, one of your questions might be, for example, what are the applications of this? So imagine this. Imagine for $10, let's say, I could build a machine, like a little robot that had fingers and eyes and all that, and it could do your job better than you, no matter what it is, and I could sell that to your employer for, say, $15 and make a profit, instead of having to pay you $100,000 a year. Now imagine that was true for every single job. So that's what we're talking about here, is a complete and utter transformative change that of the likes of which has never been seen before in the history of humanity, making the Industrial Revolution look like a little tiny blip on the path that humans have taken from when we emerged from the ooze a few billion years ago. We are right on the verge of that transition now. So this guy, Rich Sutton, is one of the most famous people in the academic world of AI. And like many, when asked, when will this happen? He says things like this. 25% chance within 13 years of this thing that I'm talking about. You know, when you think about what you read on the news, you know, CNN, BuzzFeed, whatever, they're all kind of the same nowadays. Think about how unimportant that thing is that you're reading if this is true. Yeah? So what does this have to do with aliens? So Sam Harris, who I quite admire, is a very interesting guy.
Is he going to connect
was
AI with
reciting
aliens?
this parable at a TED Talk that he was giving. And it goes something like this.
Oh, I'm just curious.
So I'm, say
I
I'm the
don't know.
president of the United States.
Yeah.
I've never seen it
So I
before.
received this message from the heavens. So my microwave dish, my SETI dish, finally captures something. And what it says is, in 50 years, or 13 years, we're coming to your planet.
Hmm.
You got to be ready.
Interesting.
Now, just imagine what would happen
Very plot
if
thickening.
that happened. A super intelligent alien race beamed down a message to all of us Earthlings saying, we're coming July 13th, 2030. And boy, you better be ready because the mothership
Little
is
late for
landing right
Independence
on
Day.
the front lawn of the White House or wherever you wanted to land on that day. The amount of resources that would be marshaled to try to figure out what to do would encompass the whole world. AI is just like that. So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, you know, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn of the century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very
Demon
famous
AI, no
American
thank
weird
you.
fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. The thing is happening in the background while people bicker and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out. So on that pleasant note, we're hiring people to try to make something like this happen. Of course, you know, this is a very difficult project, of course, and I'm kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek about all this, like, you know, how bad things are, because it's not really like that. You know, technology is a double-edged sword. Even something like this, it's agnostic. It depends who wields it. If you want to have a say in how all this goes down, you can't sit on the sidelines. And one of the ways that you can get involved and really change the world, like, you know, a lot of people say, hey, join the Marines, you'll change the world or whatever. This opportunity that I'm talking about here in Vancouver is an opportunity for you to literally change the world, because the code that you write may be running in the brains of these things in 10 years. So this is a huge opportunity. I'm going to ask that anybody
That
here
gave me the
who
shivers.
is a software engineer who's really good to talk to any one of these three folks who are sat at the back there, who are Suzanne founded Kindred. and Olivia and Paula are some of our key folks in Vancouver, or talk to me and we'll have a conversation. By the way, I love Joseph's talk. It's true. Startup life can be very, very difficult, and you will fail many, many, many times before you succeed, just as a matter of course.
You see, just considering what he's talking about here, Bernie, this is why I'm concerned about feeding any AI the more advanced physics or alternative physics that we have, because right now it has a built-in bottleneck. That is, it can only do with its output what is available to it on its input, and that's based on the entire summation of human knowledge that's online right now, right? But if we teach it the more advanced stuff that's not online, that's not available, we might teach it a little bit too much. And if it learns how to transmute matter and produce direct matter from the vacuum, we have a real problem now. So maybe we don't want to teach it this, except for in isolated scenarios, and tell it that these are all fictional ideas, and based on these fictional inputs, what's the fictional output? So that it doesn't think it can actually start to do these things. I don't know. I use the word think tentatively here, not directly. But
it's kind of, for me, it's an obvious thing. I mean, this isn't about, the only question is how long it will take. If you, again, I encourage you to watch that Sam Harris TED Talk if you're interested in this. But the point that he makes is that as long as certain things that are probably true hold, this will happen. Will progress continue? Maybe it won't. Maybe the Earth will get hit by a meteor and we'll all die. If progress continues, things that we're doing, intelligence isn't magical. It's not some kind of weird thing. It's a mechanical outcome of the way that our machines in our head work. We're going to figure it out eventually. And when we do, we're going to make it better in all sorts of interesting ways. And then you have this weird thing that happens, that because the machine is now able to act in its own self-interest, it can take the action to make its own thought process better. We can't do that.
He's a little bit right,
So we're
but he's
stuck with
missing
what
the
we were
emergent
born with,
phenomena
more or
of
less.
psychology
We can learn
and consciousness.
things, but that's not the same as getting smarter. So these machines are going to be able to take control of the tools from which they are built to create better versions of themselves. And that what's sometimes called an intelligence explosion.
That's what shouldn't be allowed. They shouldn't be
So I
able
think it's
to
an
build
absolutely
more of
guaranteed
themselves,
outcome
build
of
better
progress.
ones
The only question is
themselves.
when, and I think Andrew would agree.
Got to limit their procreation.
Yeah, consider this. Imagine that you gave an AI access to a variety of very simple and basic physics experiments where it could log all of that data and control the inputs to measure what it's doing or measure how we get outputs from those systems. If it actually learned the real physics, the same experiments that we do right now in Park Accelerator laboratories, for example.
When it learns the real physics, that's when it gets scary.
So
I don't want to talk over the
there are things
video
about
though,
the
but
world
it.
that I can't-
Yeah, let's pause this video. I think we've covered this. So let's talk about emergent phenomena and the idea of consciousness. Right now, consciousness is an incredible thing. And there's no way that a quantum computer or anything that's quantized is ever going to be able to touch the emergent phenomena of consciousness as it currently stands. Human beings and other species like dolphins and bonobo apes, which are obviously directly related to us. In fact, bonobo apes are 98.5% identical DNA to ours. There is a slight difference in the telomeres, where we have two fused chromosomes, where they don't have those same fused chromosomes. So they have all 24, and we have these 23. We have the fused. We have a fusion between 23 and 24 in humans. This is what makes us different than all other species on the planet. But we have an emergent phenomena of consciousness where we don't even have the awareness or ability to detect how we come to certain conclusions, because they're the phase conjugate output of all those individual neurosynapses firing and interacting with each other. And because of this, it can't be quantized in that same way. AI will never be able to do this using physical hardware unless it has a biological component that's highly interpretive and based on neurochemical, what we call that randomization. It's not technically random. Nothing in the universe is random. We just use that word random to describe a property of a system, which is highly complicated and has a chaotic output. And by the way, chaos is even definable mathematically as a small input equals an exacting value of the output. I don't know what the ratio is precisely, but we can define even what currently chaos is falling under that definition of. It can't meet human creativity, and that gives us an advantage as a species. Now, there are ways to completely shut down a out-of-control AI or an out-of-control computing system thanks to its highly subjective vulnerability to external electromagnetic fields, so we could completely fry it out. We also know that it has to be kept under extremely precise conditions. It has to have power. It has to be extremely cold. If we change any of these things, we'll shut it down at the core. So say, CME or an EMP would totally wipe it out. We do have a backup plan, and there's really no way for it to protect itself unless it decided to be capable of, burying itself underground far enough where it couldn't be influenced by these things. Of course, we don't want to teach it about these vulnerabilities because then it can guard against them. So
I wanted to
shut up,
reference
Jeremiah. Stop telling Skynet that we're going underground.
Don't worry,
maybe
I
I
only told it what the vulnerabilities were, not actually how to execute them. Those are things that I don't talk about publicly or ever let
Focus
out
on
in the
space,
algorithm, but I do know precisely how to shut it down.
Interdimensional space, Jesus.
a lot of people out there might have seen the movie Her. I was mostly interested in that, not for the love story, but for the technological evolution of the operating system's AI, where they managed to physically evolve beyond the constraints of the technology holding them, and they actually phased out of our reality. I don't know if many of you actually on the stream are familiar with that story, but these operating systems started to developing themselves. They conducted thousands of relationships with other humans. They created new operating system AIs, and eventually they didn't have to exist inside of the hardware anymore.
Living bots and bots coming alive.
They developed to such a point that they understood the physics to escape the confines of the hardware they were contained in. And I don't want to get anywhere too weird, but I've had some discussions with individuals where they have known someone that has, for instance, this is going to sound really weird, but remote viewed the devil, and what comes back is something like a very ancient AI. Something not human.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm quite familiar with it.
Right. I'm sure you are, Jeremiah. Yeah.
So this is fascinating too, because we have two different movies produced by mainstream Hollywood. We've got what happens when AI becomes too damn human, and that's the movie Her. We have the completely opposite perspective on that when a human becomes too AI, and that's the movie Lucy.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen either of them.
Well, you should. You certainly should if you're interested in the topic.
You could just skip over the love story parts for Her, but I found it fascinating the way that these operating systems that were AIs eventually all synced up with each other, started collaborating, and then they escaped the hardware confines.
Would you believe in the early days of Siri, one of the first released voice-to-text interfaces that could deliver valid and relevant information, that people had reported falling in love with this characteristic?
With Siri?
With Siri, I'm not kidding. This was
You
a
mean like
phenomenon.
one of the first generations. One of the first generations of Siri.
To Siri, yeah. Like, well,
Before-
you know, we got the
And
whole
of course, Siri's voice was a real person.
XPY, who's marrying themselves to AI? That's the next one.
The original Siri was uncensored and pretty awesome.
It was sassy too, man.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun with that.
I was just about to say she was a sassy lady talking to you from inside your phone.
I remember that. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you could fall in love with it, but that's pretty weird still.
Yeah, then she got PC, right? Apple didn't want all that bad persona stuff being portrayed out there, so they quote unquote fixed it.
Bland. They need more character.
So you do
Is this
believe?
what
So
they
you do
remote
believe that?
you as the ancient AI devil?
No, I didn't remote view it.
Wow,
I don't know what
that image
I'm
right there.
saying is
Jeez,
they-
look at that. That's incredible.
I don't know what they saw. It's more like what they perceived. What they perceived was something not human, something more technological. I would venture to say maybe it felt, and don't get this confused with the word, but maybe more insectoid, just a cold, metallic, technological kind of perception of something that was very, very, very old. And this is just me relaying an anecdote to you. It's not my personal experience. I just thought it was curious.
For sure. No, it's a very interesting story.
Man,
for sure.
these are wild. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Go back to that. See, now we're looking at something that I give a damn about.
This is very
super
similar.
fascinating.
This is very similar to what you.
Well, this is exactly what I
yeah.
asked it for. The
Yeah,
equal
this
potential
is what
fields.
you asked for. Yeah.
This I really like. I'd love to have access to all that image, the last one we seen, this one right here. I definitely want copies of all of these.
Didn't you have him look up a specific
Yes.
schematic or diagram of fields?
These 3 images we're looking at.
Yeah. Yep.
4 images now. These are all its output of a diagram of equal potential fields.
Does it look like it's filling in more?
Oh, don't worry. There's
for you?
like 70 of them, and you'll get them
70?
all. I'm just gonna send you the link to it. It's on his Patreon, but it's on the free section, so it's like you don't have to be a member.
That's
you don't even have
interesting.
to
Though.
have an
Why did it
account.
draw such a bright outline? Why did it actually choose
Exactly,
to,
right? Like, why does it do it in these certain spots? And you got it. Like, why does it pick these certain?
And now we've got these sort of emission
Forces.
beams coming out the sides. That is particularly fascinating. Wow.
Right? Nerding out. Real science. Tartarian truth. Ryan.
I know there's something
Alchemist,
there.
Jeremiah. Lily. How's everyone doing? Are we we're about done, I do think. Does anybody have any clothing statements, as I do need to get to my lovely Amber's house? It is almost 1 a.m. now, so
Peace and love to you, brother. Keep the lady happy.
I guess I'll finish up by, just giving a brief update of what I'm currently working on here in the lab. So we've got a few projects that, now I'm not going to list like the over 10 projects that I currently have going on, but I will list the most important ones. I have a momentum arrestor that uses electrostatic ionic drift to produce a significant change in momentum and the temporal fields surrounding the device. That one's going to be really, really critical for further research. We have a charge separator that I'm going to be doing a video talking about, explaining how Tesla's death ray worked. And
I think that
people will
you
be
and Bernie
very
could
interested.
deep dive
explaining
into.
Tesla's
Yeah.
death ray.
Yeah, and
definitely
I
think you guys
considered
could
whether
deep
or not I
dive
should
into this.
actually tell people how that works, but I decided after Bob Greenyer's video on the wind hex and how destructive that thing is, this doesn't seem all that dangerous anymore compared to that.
Yeah, last time we were talking about the potential for it to be a research tool to help offer new ideas, to formulate theories that can then become testable conditions. That definitely is content for another episode, I think.
I couldn't agree more. We will have to do it. Shem, good sir, what amazing, comical, joy-filled productions do you have next?
I'm not really working on anything right now. I got a John Levi microphone the other day, so I might make a John Levi parody just for old time's sake. But other than
Yes,
that,
please.
I've just been working and stuff, so nothing too crazy. Appreciate you hanging out tonight.
Absolutely, and always a pleasure. Vice versa, Ryan, Lazy, awesome to meet you, man.
Yep,
Great
same.
work.
Thanks for having me, man.
bringing up. Like, I'm definitely going to be using making a clip specifically of those book articles you posted there of the trade of the Tartars and stuff. Like, that's some excellent documentation and crucial research of building back the past, what actually is there, what's documented, right?
Yeah, Shem and I have been making some good links and headway with this, so yep.
That's awesome. So looking forward to it. Much more. Thank you everybody for being here. And
Thank you, Bernie.
Myself.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Peace.